Well,
Follow the screen. Everyone that can will stand, please, for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance. Now, if my memory getting bad, I wrote everything down. For our officers, I don't see our vice president here. Let's see. And Gordon's not here, our treasurer. So Bruce is over here getting a donut. He's our secretary. And Steve is over here at the table. He's membership and technology. Thought I saw Sharon Bender back here. She does most of our special programs, except for one, which Dan Cook will be doing. And let's see, who else we have here? Dick Two's back in the back. And Bob Whalen is right here. He does fallen veterans. And the name I can't read. Oh, Carol Taylor. She's been on the board for a long time. I really appreciate her. Okay, now we'll move on to the Fallen Veterans Program.
We have two fallen veterans to recognize at our meeting today. The first one is Donald Holloway, U.S. Marine Corps. The second is Catherine Derrick. Catherine Derrick was U.S. Air Force, and I'd like to recognize her son Grant, who has come along to recognize the family of this, represent the family at this meeting. So I wish you'd all stand for that. Thank you all.
Okay, on to our speaker for the day. Speaker today graduated from the Air Force Academy, became an Air Force F-16 pilot. Then he transitioned to the Air National Guard, became an F-16 instructor pilot. And in 2014, he transitioned to the 214th Reconnaissance Group, served as an MQ-1 pilot and deputy group commander. In 24, the 214 Reconnaissance Group converted to the MQ-9 and was renamed the 214th Attack Group, where he was the Operations Support Squadron Commander prior to being assigned as the commander of the 214th Attack Group at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. The 214th Attack Group operates remotely piloted aircraft both within Arizona and worldwide in combat theaters. Please welcome Commander of the 214th Attack Group, Col Brian Grasky.
Thank you all for allowing me a couple minutes to speak here. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak, and I appreciate groups like this that keep the traditions alive that I'm used to right now in the service. So I appreciate all you continuing that legacy as we go forward. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about what we do in the RPA world. I'm going to use the term RPA instead of drone. RPA is remotely piloted aircraft. If we use the term drone, that kind of connotates something that just goes off by itself and does its thing, and that's not what this is. This is an actively flown aircraft, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So, remotely piloted aircraft, RPA. Before I start, any Marines in here? Okay, I'm going to speak very slowly then, so you keep going. As Mary said, my name is Brian Grasky. If you like what I have to say, I'm Jim Grasky's son. If you don't like what I have to say, they don't know me. So I fly the MQ-9. As Larry said, I used to fly the F-16. So I've got 15 years flying F-16. This is not that. MQ-9 is not a fighter aircraft. It is an attack aircraft. So I know a lot of you are familiar with close air support and what that means. So when you're on the ground, you need a little extra help, you'll call an aircraft in to help you out. And that's what we do, is come overhead, and we have ordnance, and we have gear that can see what's going on and maybe see behind that mountain or behind that fence or behind that house and help you out with eyes in the sky. So that's really the big picture of what this is. Now, the other mission this aircraft can do that some of you have done, there might be a few of you that climbed in and went behind enemy lines and sat on top of the hill with binoculars and watched what was going on to get intel on what that is. Well, now we can do that in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever with my pilots, but in Tucson, and be away from harm's way. So we can get that same level of intel and not put a body in harm's way. And that air crew can go to their son's soccer game the next morning. So there's some benefits there. So I'm going to talk a little bit and I'll open up questions. If you have any questions, please stop me and we'll go. So this is the MQ-9. It is, this is an MQ-9 that no longer flies because the propeller dropped. It is a propeller-driven aircraft. It's a jet engine with a propeller behind, so it's a pusher aircraft. Propeller behind pushes it forward. Now, in real life, this thing is about the size of an A-10. So we're not talking about a little tiny drone that you buy at Walmart. This is a 10 to 14,000 pound aircraft with a 70-foot wingspan, and it carries the same weapons as the A-10 or the F-16. So we carry 500 pound class laser or GPS guided bombs. And Hellfire missiles that were designed as anti-tank missiles, but are anti-personnel, anti-building, anti-soft target. So we carry a complement of all those, and there's a bunch of modern weapons that you can take as well. The way this works, airplane is flying over, hold on a minute, it is. So our airplane, our 214th Attack Group airplane right now is flying over Central Command, over in the Middle East. I can't tell you exactly where, but we're in that part of the world while the crew flying it is sitting at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And what happens is there's a box at Davis-Monthan that is about maybe 20 feet long by 8 or 10 feet wide that has the pilot, the sensor operator sitting to his right, and a whole bunch of computers that sends a signal through fiber optic cable to an antenna that sends that signal up to a satellite that bounces either to another satellite or down to the earth, and then it hits this antenna that's in the airplane right where the cockpit should be. And that signal takes about 1.5 seconds to get from my pilot at Davis-Monthan to the airplane 8,000 miles away. And when the pilot does this, now the airplane moves. And we actively fly the aircraft. There's a little bit of a delay, but we're actively flying it halfway around the world. So a lot of technology goes into this. We can fly the aircraft, we can shoot weapons, we can get video back from the camera. So underneath here is the camera that we're getting video from. It's also the lasers to fire the weapons. And we can take that video feed from what we're seeing on the ground and pipe that back to Davis-Monthan for the pilot and the sensor operator and the crew. Or we can pipe it to a combatant commander somewhere. We can pipe it to an Army or Marine on the ground who has a laptop on his chest and he can see my feed so that he can see what's behind that next hill. Or we can pipe it to White House Situation Room, combatant commander at headquarters. You had a question back here.
How many of those been shot down and how many do you have to?
They do get shot down, sadly. We have 200 worldwide. And we keep most of them in theater just in case some get shot down. They're not the most defensively capable aircraft out there. We're slow. We don't have defensive systems, so we try and stay out of the threat rings. But every once in a while, we get in there, and especially in the past couple of months, in the hot spots that you've read about on the news, yeah, these things get shut down. The good thing is they're relatively inexpensive. There's not a lot of really proprietary information. And so if they get shut down, we kind of, as a flight crew, we kind of shrug our shoulders and get up and go grab a coffee. Right? So we don't have a pilot down in theater that we got to send a rescue team after that. We kind of, right? That's the benefit. I mean, it's still a few $1 million. You had a question?
I forgot my question.
Okay. I forgot my answer.
Enough not to be heard on the ground.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's not stealthy, it's not stealth, but it's high enough that you don't see it or hear it on the ground. But we can still reach out and touch what's on the ground with our weapons. Yes, sir.
How much do those guys cost?
Let's see, when they were purchased, $20 million would purchase 4 aircraft, a cockpit, and the antenna system. So not super expensive. I mean, it's still $20 million, but it's not super expensive in government terms. 20 million in government terms, 20 million is budget dust. Okay.
Is there now or plans in the future for any air refueling capability?
Good question. I don't know. I have not seen anything as far as air refueling, but as it is, this little thing with the propeller attached can stay airborne for 2 days.
Yeah, I've read where, they talk about it to remain on station. It means in the area, 2 or 3 hours of time.
Okay, well,
They make snow when they're doing that or.
yeah. When we're on station hanging out, so the question, it can remain on station for a long time. Depending on how far I have to fly to get on station, I can stay on station 12 hours. And so you have 2 of these, I stay on, so let me back up and I'll answer your question in a minute. When I was flying F-16, we would stay on station for different threats and different things. I would have to have two ships of F-16. So I'd be in a 2-ship, I'd get off the tanker, I'd go on station, and I'd hang out for an hour. I'd high five the other 2 ships, they'd go to the tanker, get gas, hang out for a minute, get more gas, and then come and relieve me on station. And we did that every hour. So F-16 capable aircraft, but you can only stay on station an hour or 2 at most. And you need two ships to make that yo-yo happen. And that can only go for maybe 8 hours. And then you get pilot fatigue, you get all the other pieces and parts that come with sitting in this cramped cockpit for that long. Plus you probably drove a couple hours to get there. So 4 aircraft, 4 pilots, the tanker, all of that to have a 12-hour on station time, or really an 8-hour total on station time. I can put one of these up and stay on station for that same 8 hours with nobody in theater, with 1 crew at Davis-Monthan. Usually we do 2 crews so we can swap out. But if you need 24/7 coverage, 2 of these, 1 guy goes on there, high fives the other crew, stay on station for 12 hours, fly back home. The other one, they land to get gas. The other one goes out there, stays on station for 12 hours. So there's a lot more capability for on station, but being that our combat versions right now stay on station about, or have about a 24-hour loiter time. And some of our advanced ones, the next one's coming up, have a 40+ hour loiter time. There's some pretty good capability. And that's without refueling. So I think in my crystal ball now, not officially speaking, I think there's no plan for refueling because it's really not needed. And then with that 2.5 delay, that would, it's a bear to refuel anyway. Try that with a 2.5 delay. That'd be tough. Now, that whole 2.5 delay is going away with our next bit of technology. It's just pretty cool stuff coming out that I wish I could get into. So, who's flying this thing? Right now, so I'm Air National Guard. We have these in the active duty and in the National Guard. There are 12 different National Guard units that fly these, just like we do. And there's about 5 different active duty units that do this. Now, the crew, when we fly, is a pilot, just like any other aircraft has gone through pilot training. About half of my pilots have come from a different airframe like myself. And about half of my pilots have just flown remotely piloted aircraft. But in pilot training, they flew different aircraft to know what it's like to fly and talk on the radio and all those kind of things. So the pilot is a commissioned officer because right now by federal law, a commissioned officer has to hit a pickle button for weapons in the Air Force. So to the right of the pilot is a sensor operator. Sensor operator is an enlisted crew member. Might come from logistics or supply or personnel background, or might just be an aircrew member. But that sensor operator has the really important job of driving the cameras and firing the lasers, and then helping us out with navigation, and if there's an emergency, helping us with checklists and all that. So a full crew inside the GCS, the ground control station, is our box. And that full crew, pilot, sensor operator, works together as a team. And they bond pretty tight teams, if you guys can imagine that. Now, outside, through a wall into my operations center, which again, still at Davis-Monthan, same building. In the operations center, I've got a pilot who sits as operations supervisor. He oversees everything going on, whether we have multiple lines going on or just one. And then there's an intelligence supervisor and then an intelligence journeyman who sit on the console. They're on headset with the flight crew. They're on headset with the supported unit on the ground. A lot of times we're talking with Rangers and conventional forces or special forces on the ground. And he's on the headset with all those people, and he's helping us out with keeping situational awareness on what's going on, talking with the supported unit about what the target is, figuring out from wherever our video feed is being sent, what they're looking for, what they want, and helping us coordinate all that. And then we've got weather personnel in the operations center. Because unlike my F-16, one, I can't look out the window and see what the weather's doing, right? So I need somebody looking at satellite photos and all that. And the second thing is, with a 24 to 40 hour loiter time, the weather is significantly different when I land than when I take off. So it can be. So I need 24/7 weather awareness of what's going on so that we're not flying several thousand miles away and coming back and not being able to get home. So that's a unique thing that we've got. And then you can imagine with all that satellite and communication stuff, I've got a whole cyber team, communication specialists to help with all of those pieces, all the cyber, the ones and zeros that go back and forth across the world. And then a bunch of support like a normal unit. So it's pretty manpower intensive, even though we're not putting people downrange. Yes, sir.
As to navigation, aren't these able to do 0-0 approaches?
Absolutely. In fact, it is preferred, just like the Airbus that last time you guys flew to visit your kids. Just like the Airbus, it is preferred that we land it on automatic systems rather than the pilots doing that. It's actually safer for the airplane to land itself. But yes, they can land 0-0. The challenge with this airplane, there's two. One is it does not like crosswinds. High lift wing, real narrow wing, just does not like crosswinds for takeoff and landing. And the other is it's not good in icing conditions. So that's why another reason we have our weather true. But otherwise, there's a lot of autopilot being flown. There's a lot of times that the pilot kind of sits like this. And the sensor operators fighting with the camera and fighting with the laser, and the pilot's sitting there going, "Yeah, come on, we better. It's not the most exciting thing to fly, but the missions are phenomenal. So what we do, this unit here and a lot of the others, we are working directly with troops on the ground, many of you guys in your past lives. Whether it's a close air support or whether it's just an intel thing, we have several, we call them supported units. That could be conventional Army or Marines, could be Rangers, could be Special Forces on the ground that won't go into theater unless they know that one of these is above. In fact, we have it written into, for example, Navy SEALs in Central Command and AFRICOM will not go into theater unless there's one of these airplanes written in their doctrine. So we're constantly supporting those kind of groups. Any convoy that happens, we're watching and looking ahead of the convoy, looking for threats. Any troops on the ground. Here's an example of what we do. This was a while ago. One of the missions when I first got in the unit I was watching. So I walk into the GCS and I'm standing behind the pilot, sensor operator over here, and I'm looking at all the different TV screens. It's a mess. There's like 2 crew and there's 11 TV screens that we're looking at, 2 different keyboards on each station, and 3 different radios and a telephone. So lots of busyness going on. So I walk into GCS and I'm watching this, and we have a town, and this was in Afghanistan, I believe, a little tiny town, but there were American hostages somewhere in that town, or friendly hostages, not necessarily Americans. I actually don't know who they were. Friendly hostages somewhere in the town, and we had 2 A teams of Army Special Forces going in to rescue those hostages. So as we're watching overhead, we've been overhead about 2 hours, just watching the town, seeing what's going on. And then we see the little Chinook helicopters coming from 2 different directions, land on the outskirts of the town, and these little black ant-looking things get out of the helicopters, 2 different locations. We tie ourselves to this group over here, and there's another RPA tying themselves to that group. And we're in communications with the commander on the ground. And they're moving through, they're telling us where they're going so we can look ahead and see what's going on. And at one point, we get to tell the commander on the ground, stop. There's something over here I need to go check out. He stops and holds position. We fly around the other side of town, look back, see a little hot spot, and there was a bad guy with a gun or RPG. And through communication, we got an ID, figured out who that was. It wasn't indeed a bad guy. Was able to employ a weapon to take away that threat before the Army guy on the ground ever knew he was there, and before he got shot. Come back, say, okay, guys, you're clear, and they went in and went, knocking on doors to find the good guys. So that's the kind of thing that we can do, and it's the most boring thing in the world to fly, but the missions are phenomenal. Yes.
Well, how do the opposite teams, what do they have?
Good question. They have drones. Most of what the opposite teams, I like that term, most of what they have are one-way drones. Somewhere between a cruise missile and what this is. So a lot of Middle Eastern countries in that claim they have full drones, and they have a few. China has a few. But really what's mostly out there are what we call one-way drones, and those are glorified cruise missiles that can be flown, but they've got short legs, they're loaded with weapons, and they go and they try and crash them into something, right? The boats in the Persian Gulf, or the Persian Gulf, and those kind of things, those are one-way attack drones. That's really what is on the other team. China, different story. China's pretty capable as a military. But they really don't need a meter, right? China's gonna stay home and just defend, and then look over Taiwan. We need this because we project, right? There's the good thing about US military and all you folks set this already in motion is nobody's really attacking us on home turf. When we go, we're defending democracy, but we're doing it in the Middle East or in Africa or in China, that kind of thing. So we need to have the legs to project. And everybody else is kind of just staying at home. So there's really no need for us to have this technology. So why am I here talking with you guys about this? One, I like to get the information out there. I like to brag on my team of what they do and show you guys what's kind of next out there. But 2, we make it to a point where you're seeing these fly overhead Tucson. I have 8 airplanes down at Fort Huachuca. Army has something very similar as well down in Fort Huachuca. So if you go down there to Fort Huachuca, you'll see some of these flying around. And you won't notice it unless you really stare at it and figure out what it is, because it looks like a regular airplane. It acts like a regular airplane, it smells like a regular airplane. And it is a regular airplane, it's just that the pilot is sitting on the ground in a box and there's a signal going to the airplane. And I think this is a growth industry for the US military as well. This, as much as we're trying to put money into the fight against China potential, right, and 6th gen fighters and stealth and all that, this is an area that is growing. And I think eventually we're gonna see these flying over town or you know, see them around, that kind of thing. And I wanna help dispel some of the myths around these things. So I've been flying these for about 10 years. It's a regular airplane. And like I said, it flies like a regular airplane. It smells like a regular airplane. It uses JPA just like the F-16. It carries the same weapons. One of the questions I get is what happens if the satellite link fails or there's a hardware failure in the airplane and we no longer have that link capability from satellites. Inside the set of computers here, there's I can program in what's called an emergency mission. I can program that from the cockpit and send it to the airplane, and I can change that at any time, and I can adjust it and delete it and change it, put a new one. And when I send that to the airplane stores that in memory. So if it loses that satellite link, it reverts to, it says, I'm no longer listening to Col Grasky over there, so now I gotta listen to my emergency mission, and it immediately starts flying that mission. And I can program it to fly all the way back home or all the way back to a base, and it'll fly as long as it can based on the fuel it has on board. And I can put it down, I can send it home. We usually send it to a friendly base and then have it orbit for a few hours so that we can try and take it over with a line of sight signal. And if that doesn't work, I can make it turn around and land on that runway and taxi off the runway all by itself. So if something happens and it loses that link through jamming or hardware failure, the airplane flies just fine. So we were flying it to Virginia from Fort Huachuca, flying one to Virginia. This was a few months ago. And somewhere along the way, first of all, FAA is a little bit nervous until this situation. And we lost link to it. We had a hardware failure in my GCS in my cockpit. And it also killed the radio. So I couldn't talk to Fort Worth Center on radio anymore, and I couldn't control the airplane. So the emergency mission was continue the route that we had planned, right? Same altitude, same airspeed, same route, just continue it. We couldn't talk to Fort Worth Center. So the cool thing about this is we're sitting on the ground in a cockpit inside my building right here in Davis-Monthan. So my pilot picks up the phone, calls Fort Worth Center on the landline phone, says, hey, this is Rattler 01. He says, what? Took him a minute. No, we're the airplane that you're controlling. We're just talking to you on a phone instead of the radio now. And it's after he realized, wait a minute, oh, wait, that's you guys? We told him what was happening. Everything was fine. We got the link back in 30 minutes and everything was good. But those are the capabilities that come with this type of technology. Just back up to call him on the phone. That was good. So Fort Worth and FAA aren't quite as nervous as they were. They proved it. Yes, sir.
What is the airspeed on that?
We usually cruise about 180 true, so about 150 knots indicated. We can go a little faster if we need to. In attack, when we're doing attacks, we usually go a little faster than that. Cruising around the country. I mean, it's the speed of a fast Cessna. A little faster than Cessna, but so we're not getting anywhere quick. I take that. Cessna is about 150 true, so yeah, a little faster, but not airline speed. It's still propeller, but we'll go up into the 20s as far as altitude goes, and don't have to worry about a pressurized cockpit. But yeah, it doesn't go fast, but it goes a long way. Yes.
High.
Service ceiling's way above where we like to go, but we're usually in the 20s. 20,000 feet, 25. Give or take. Yes, sir.
What about the jet? Not very expensive.
Yeah, so the Jet one is the RQ4, and that came out a little while ago. So that's a little different situation where the The RQ4, first of all, it's being divested away from the Air Force. We're no longer funding it. And it's reconnaissance only aircraft, been used for a long time and very successful. Its job was to take over for the U-2 and fly these areas really high altitude, being a jet, quite a bit higher altitude, and it takes cameras, it takes photos with its cameras. Now, the difference with the RQ4 over this is it cannot send those pictures real time. Typically, it has some capability, but it really doesn't typically send those those pictures real time. It's downloaded just like a U2. And the second is, once you have it programmed for its route, you don't actively fly, you don't have an air crew actively flying. Again, there's some capability, but not the way it's designed. So the RQ4 is designed to take program the day before, hit a button, the airplane takes off, flies halfway around the world, does its thing, comes back and lands, kind of by itself. And I'd say kind of by itself, it's called semi-autonomous. There's an air crew watching it, giving it updated instructions as needed, but there's no active flying. It's more of a send and do program kind of thing. So it's a little different, and this has taken over that job. Yeah. All right, we talked about the airplane, we talked about the crew complement, we talked about the unit and what kind of missions it does. Good.
Are you concerned about the opposition getting their hands on technology that would be better for it?
Not as much. The only real technology that's super special is in this camera right here with lasers and cameras and how it all works and how that sends through. There's a little bit of computer stuff up here that is slightly newer than 70s technology. But for the most part, this is the same airplane that's been flying since the 80s. MQ-1s started flying in the 80s. They took the MQ-1, put a different motor, a little bit bigger, more gas to make this. And so it's not all that new in technology. And I've asked the same question when we've started discussing things being shot down or that kind of thing, and nobody's super worried about it. Now, we had one situation happen, we had an emergency overseas, and we had to make the decision to fly as close to home as we could to try and salvage something, drive it into the dirt as fast as we could to make it all destroy or dump it in the water. And headquarters said, we're not worried about too much, dump in the water as far offshore as we get. So that's kind of our mentality toward it is, if you're gonna lose it, dump in the water. But there's nothing, like did you guys hear the news was about a year and a half, right at the beginning of the Ukraine thing, where the Russian jets forced one of these into the water? A couple of you, so one of these was flying, and there's video of it you can find of a Su-34, I think, Sukhoi, Russian Sukhoi, coming up and coming real close and dumping gas to try and get it to catch fire. And then the wingman who didn't know how to fly his airplane actually hit the propeller and one of these wings. And the airplane, the MQ-9, ended up going down in the Black Sea. And Russians went there and they got there before we did, but there really wasn't anything to salvage. There wasn't much we wanted to worry about that. Pretty old technology.
What kind of requirements are there to cruise mission capable, especially on the guard side?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, it's the same requirements as any other airplane. We've got monthly flying requirements, currencies, so you have to fly so often and you have to do different attacks and different weapons and different landing things so often, just like any other aircraft. They're not a lot different than from when I was flying fighters to doing this. It's tougher in this to get the requirements because I can't just jump in the sim. I got to grab a crew member, and the sim console is a little more complicated, but it's pretty much the same as any manned aircraft. We treat it as a manned aircraft. Our pilots still wear wings. We still have the same currencies, same requirements. They still get flight pay. So
Are you in a sim on a monthly basis?
absolutely, yeah, weekly. Our sim runs almost, so we're 24/7 operation, right, with the long legs of the airplane. So we're National Guard, but we've got more full-time people in my group of 320 people than in most of the wing with the F-16s, because we're running 24/7. I've got crews, intel, cyber, and support all the time, 24/7. In fact, on December 6th, we talked another unit into taking our line for 3 days so we could get together for a holiday party. And it'll be the first time in a year that we all can get together because of the mission. So, yep, same as, it's a tough mission for the Guard because it's tough to be part-time. But it's a good mission for the Guard because we can be directly engaged in combat and still either be a part-timer or be home for the kids, you know, which is what we'd like to do in the Guard.
As you look to the future, what attributes would you get?
Good question. If I were in charge, I would add a ton to this thing because it's super capable, but I don't have the pocketbook. What we're adding are capabilities to sense and see threats, missiles coming up, that kind of thing. More situational awareness so that we can know what's going on around us a little bit better. And then more capability to engage with all of the advanced network things that are out there, the F-35, the satellites, that kind of thing. So one area this airplane's being left out of is that high-end, super technical fight where everything is on a network and everybody sees where everybody is and all that kind of stuff, and we're kind of left out of that because it's old technology. So that's one of the new upgrades coming. Yeah. All right. Yes, sir.
Does it have any kind of electronic countermeasures to protect itself?
Not a thing. Nothing yet. Nothing. No, and typically the bad guys don't know we're there. So this was born in the counterinsurgency days, going after Al Qaeda, that kind of thing, right? So this was born, it's actually a CIA program, that became an Air Force program born in those days. We didn't worry about threats because we were way above and we were watching, you know, people that were fighting the Stone Age essentially. Now that we're moving it into peer competition fights, China, Russia, into the areas where they are shooting. Now we're actually finally looking at it as maybe we should upgrade this thing and put some stuff on. So we're at that decision point right now.
Is this helping the war in Israel at all?
Not directly. What can I say?
Can't say that, okay.
Yes, there is some activity in that region, but not directly, right? Yeah. So there's some activity in that region. All right. I didn't ask how much time I have. Any other questions? Anything I missed? All right. Well, I appreciate you guys' help. I appreciate your support. I applaud you guys getting together like this and keeping the spirit alive. So I just appreciate the opportunity to speak here.
Okay, now on to the treasurer's report. And since Gordon's not here, he's down to the hospital for pre-surgery at this point. So for the treasurer's report, I can't read it all. It looks like we started off with $3,238.37. And on the 2nd of October, he deposited $105, $80 from the can and $25 for membership. On the 7th, he deposited $410.63, which was from PayPal for the barbecue tickets. On the 7th, he also deposited $1,239, which was the barbecue sales and the 50/50, as well as the donation back on the 50/50. And on the 30th, he deposited $200 for Manhattan Dolls ticket sales. Expenses on the 2nd, $68.37 to Dennis for the donuts. And on the 8th, $492 to Sharon Bender for the barbecue expenses, which that left an ending balance of $4,632.63. But since then, The Walker team has donated another $1,000 for a couple of homes they have sold. So I'd like to thank them for that. That's a treasurer's report. Now on to old business, barbecue results. Sharon, do you have anything on that? Okay. From what I saw, it looked like we made, what, about $1,500, somewhere in that area? Okay, so we made about $1,500 on the barbecue. And for a new business, November potluck, Carol, is there anything you want to say about that other than ticket sales?
Ticket sales today are my last ticket sales for the 14th potluck, and it's to benefit the DAV. We have the commander of the DAV here today, and it will all proceeds go to that. So if you need tickets, today's my last sale, or you can call. And the other thing is Manhattan Dolls. If anybody has uniforms or military things that they want that we can show on the day, we're going to decorate around with uniforms on the doors like I did before. And if we have a shadow box or something you like on display, get a hold of me and I'll get it picked up. And we'll have that the day of Manhattan Dolls.
And I believe Manhattan Dolls is sold out.
Yes.
So if you didn't get your tickets, you're gonna miss out. Then Veterans Day ceremony, Dan.
Hope everybody's got it. November 11th is, I've had more people say, when is Veterans Day? November 11th, every day, the day after the Marine Corps birthday.
Yes,
Marines, it's easier but then the Marines don't show up. Hook the line. I hope everybody's got it on your calendar. We really need a good turnout. We're going to recognize, we're doing something special this time. We're going to salute our World War II veterans in our own community. Will Harris, Al Cohn, and Frank Mazur will be specially recognized at that event. So please come on out, bring your wives, children, everybody, and let's celebrate. It starts at 9:30 and it's over by 10:30. Free coffee and donuts. And I do need help with greeters. So I'll put a clipboard up on the exit table out here. If you've got the time, just show up at 8:30. We're going to be handing out American flags to everybody that shows up, and we need people to be greeted to our Veterans Day celebration. Anybody got any questions? Anybody going to volunteer? Anybody going to volunteer? I'm not sitting down till somebody's great hands are full. You don't have to sign up, just pretend. Thanks.
Okay, another thing happening on Veterans Day for Veterans Day, is on Saturday the 9th at 8 a.m. We're going to be putting out flags along Sunflower Park Drive. And we will pick them up on the 11th at 5:30 p.m. So anybody who wants to volunteer for that, you're welcome to come out, meet us at the center. Go ahead.
Say your times again, Saturday or when?
Saturday, the 9th at 8 a.m.
Pick up,
The 11th at 5:30 p.m. because sunset is right around 5:30. And the reason we did it on Saturday is because on Friday, several of us were going out to the cemetery because at the cemetery, they're putting out flags on Friday at 8 a.m. So if you want to go out to the cemetery and put out flags, welcome to do that as well. So that's what's going on with the flags. Another thing that I was just reminded of from the president of the Sun City Veterans Club is that they're having a free club potluck on December 1st, and everyone here is invited. It's going to be at Sun City at their facility. I went to it last year. It's very nice, and they have a nice big facility out there to have this. So, and it's going to be open mic. So if you have any funny stories or anything you want to tell, that's all open to all of our membership as well. I'll be putting out an email about that as well. And also one more thing that I was just told about this morning is next Tuesday at 6 p.m. is bingo. And any winner who donates their money to the Vets Club, donates their winnings to the Vets Club, it'll be matched by the Walter team. So there's your opportunity to even donate more money back to the Vets Club. Now we're on to welcoming back any new people here. What happened to the mic?
Oh.
My name is Dave Collins, been in Sunflower about a little over 3 years now, live just a couple of houses down from Tim and Kay and right across the street from Bob. Let's see, I spent about 28 years in the Air Force between active duty and reserves. Active duty, I flew F-15s, so we can stay on station a little longer than these guys. That's enough for them. So we always had that. No, I'm currently still working. I'm a 787 captain for United Airlines. So that's why you don't see me around a lot, because I'm back and forth to Chicago. So anyhow, happy to be here.
Anyone else? Okay. Anything for the good of the cause? Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, some of you may have noticed the notice were late today, and I've received several threats on my life. So I want to just make it clear it wasn't my fault. I ordered the notice last night, they didn't put them together, and I had to wait for them to do it.
I thought maybe you got talk.
Which one of your threats? Yeah.
Anything else? One thing I would like to ask is that anybody who volunteers down at the VA hospital, please give me your name so that I can have that and correct the report that they send to me. They send me a report of how much money we've donated, food and clothing we've donated. I get all of that information, but for the veterans, for the volunteer hours, they give me somebody else's name that I don't recognize. And so it's just one person that gives maybe 9 or 10 hours a month. And I know we donate a lot more time than that as volunteers. So please let me know if you volunteer down there, and I will get your name added to the list correctly so that we get, again, we were second this time to the popcorn people this quarter for donations. We tend to always be second or third donations to the VABS. So we like to keep that going, and a lot of that's associated with the food for the patient pantry, the clothing we donate, as well as the money. So, and anybody else have anything for the good of the cause? Yes.
On Monday at 4 o'clock at Golden Corral, all veterans get to eat free. So, and if you've been to Golden Corral, you don't know where to begin. I mean, there's so much food. So Monday at 4 o'clock, and I can tell you one thing, the lines are long. So be sure you go if you want a free meal.
And along that same lines, if you go on the website, on our website, there's, I think it's called Vet Resources link there. You click on Vet Resources link, and it tells you all of the free meals and all the places you can go to get things free for Veterans Day. That link is put out by the VA. So just so you know, that's a place you can go and find that information, because I know there's a lot of places that do that. Denny's will give you a free breakfast, and Olive Garden gives away free meals. There's a lot of places that do that, and so if you go there and check, they give you all of the ones that where you can go and get free meals, you can go and get a haircut, you can go get all of those things. So check that out. Anything else? Okay, then I guess we are adjourned. Thank you.